The rain drummed against the funeral home windows like fingers tapping impatiently on a desk, each drop a reminder that even the weather couldn't wait for our family drama to end. I sat in the front row, my black dress already wrinkled from clutching the fabric between my sweaty palms, watching my father's casket through a haze of disbelief and something darker, something that tasted like betrayal. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. Marcus sat beside me, his hand resting possessively on Mom's shoulder as she dabbed at her eyes with a tissue that had seen better days. My younger brother had always been the golden child, the one who could do no wrong in Dad's eyes, even when he was dropping out of college for the third time or asking for money to fund his latest business venture. Now, at 32, he wore his grief like a designer suit, perfectly fitted and slightly performative. "Beautiful service," whispered Mrs. Henderson from behind us. She'd been our neighbor for 20 years and had witnessed enough of our family's ups and downs to write a tell-all book. "Your father would have loved the flowers." I nodded without turning around, my eyes fixed on the spray of white lilies covering Dad's casket. "He wouldn't have loved them. Dad hated lilies, said they smelled like death and old ladies' perfume. He would have wanted sunflowers, bright and bold like his laugh used to be before the cancer made everything quiet and gray. But Mom had chosen lilies because they were appropriate, and Marcus had agreed because he always agreed with whatever made him look good." The irony wasn't lost on me that I was the only one who remembered Dad's favorite flowers. Yet I was also the one he'd barely spoken to in the last 5 years of his life. Pastor Williams droned on about eternal rest and divine mercy, his voice a comfortable rumble that seemed designed to lull people into acceptance rather than inspire any real emotion. I'd stopped listening after he mispronounced Dad's middle name for the third time, Joaquin, not Joaquin, and started instead to catalog the faces in the crowd. Dad's coworkers from the construction company filled 3 rows, their weathered hands folded respectfully in their laps. These were men who'd known my father as a straight shooter, someone who showed up early, worked hard, and never made excuses. They probably knew him better than his own family did, especially in these last years when family dinners had become exercises in polite avoidance. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, like this video, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Behind them sat my extended family, aunts and uncles who surface for weddings and funerals like some sort of emotional submarine crew. They whispered among themselves, probably already dividing up Dad's possessions in their minds. I caught Aunt Rose's eye and she gave me a sympathetic smile that didn't reach her eyes. She'd never forgiven me for abandoning the family, as if choosing to become a nurse instead of staying home to help with Dad's business made me some kind of traitor. Elena always was too independent for her own good, I'd overheard her telling my cousin Maria at Christmas 2 years ago. Some women just don't understand that family comes first. What Aunt Rosa didn't understand was that I'd tried to put family first for 28 years. And all it had gotten me was a front row seat to watch Marcus get everything I'd worked for handed to him on a silver platter. The pastor's voice grew louder, signaling we were approaching the end of the service. Let us now hear from Roberto's son, Marcus, who has prepared some words about his father. My brother stood slowly, adjusting his tie with the practiced ease of someone who'd given presentations in boardrooms. Which was laughable, considering Marcus had never held a steady job longer than 6 months. But he looked the part, tall, confident, with Dad's dark eyes and Mom's refined bone structure. I'd inherited Dad's height and stubborn chin, traits that looked distinguished on a man but made me appear difficult, according to various family members over the years. Marcus cleared his throat and began speaking about our father with the kind of generic sentiments you could find in any greeting card. Roberto Mendez was a man of integrity, a devoted husband, and a loving father who taught us the value of hard work and family loyalty. Hard work. I almost snorted. Marcus wouldn't recognize hard work if it came with a manual and a YouTube tutorial. While I'd been pulling double shifts at the hospital to pay off my student loans, Marcus had been living in Mom and Dad's basement, occasionally helping out at Dad's contracting business when he felt like it. Family loyalty. That was rich, considering Marcus had spent most of his 20s avoiding family gatherings unless money was involved. My father's greatest joy, Marcus continued, his voice breaking slightly in a way that seemed calculated for maximum emotional impact, was knowing that his legacy would continue through his children. He always said that family was everything. The words hit me like a physical blow because they were true. Dad had said that, over and over again. But apparently, family is everything, came with conditions I'd never been told about. I remembered the last real conversation I'd had with Dad, 3 months before the cancer diagnosis. I'd come home for Sunday dinner, full of excitement about the promotion I'd just received, head nurse in the cardiac unit, a position I'd worked toward for 6 years. I'd barely started explaining the new responsibilities when Dad cut me off. "That's nice, Mija, but when are you going to settle down? Marcus has been thinking about expanding the business, and he could use someone with your organizational skills." Organizational skills. As if my medical degree and years of experience could be reduced to filing papers and answering phones for my brother's hypothetical business expansion. "Dad," I'd said carefully, "I love my job. I'm good at it. This promotion means you're getting further away from what really matters," he'd interrupted, his voice carrying that edge of disappointment I knew so well. "Marcus understands family responsibility. He's here, he's invested in what we've built. You're just playing house with other people's families." Playing house. That's what he called my career saving lives. Marcus was wrapping up his eulogy. Now, his voice stronger as he reached his closing points. Dad's final gift to our family was ensuring we'd be taken care of, that his hard work would provide security for those he loved most. Mom, Marcus, and I know that his spirit lives on. In the business he built and the values he instilled in us. Wait. Mom, Marcus, and I? That was only 2 people. I felt my chest tighten as the implication settled in. Had Marcus really just excluded me from Dad's final gifts? From his legacy, the congregation murmured appreciatively as Marcus returned to his seat, several people reaching out to squeeze his shoulder or whisper condolences. He delivered exactly what they'd expected, the grieving son stepping up to honor his father's memory and carry on the family tradition. Pastor Williams invited everyone to join us at the graveside for the burial, and people began filing out of the chapel. I stood mechanically, my legs unsteady beneath me, trying to process what I'd just heard. "Beautiful words," Mom whispered to Marcus, pulling him into a hug. "Dad would have been so proud." I waited for her to say something to me, some acknowledgement. That I was also Roberto Mendez's child, also grieving, also part of this family. Instead, she turned to accept condolences from the stream of people offering their sympathy, her arms still linked with Marcus's as if I were invisible. The graveside service passed in a blur of Latin prayers and thrown dirt. I stood slightly apart from Mom and Marcus, close enough to be included in the family grouping but far enough away to feel the distance that had been growing between us for years. Several of Dad's coworkers approached me directly, remembering me from the years I'd spent helping out at the job sites during summer breaks. "Your dad was real proud of you, Elena," said Miguel, Dad's foreman. "Always talking about his daughter the nurse, saving lives and all that." The words were meant to comfort, but they only deepened my confusion. If Dad was proud of me, why had he spent the last years of his life making me feel like my choices were somehow wrong? Why had Marcus's eulogy sounded like I didn't exist? As the last handfuls of dirt covered the casket, I found myself staring at the headstone that would soon bear Dad's name. Roberto Mendez. Beloved husband and father. The words seemed inadequate for a man who'd been larger than life, who'd built a successful business from nothing, who'd taught me to swing a hammer before I could properly hold a pencil, but they were also accurate in their simplicity. Dad had been beloved, at least by some of us. And he had been a father, though apparently not an equal opportunity one. The crowd began to disperse, most people heading back to their cars or stopping to offer final condolences to Mom and Marcus. I hung back, needing a moment alone with Dad before returning to whatever came next. The funeral home staff had left us privacy for these final minutes, understanding that grief needed space to breathe. That's when I saw Mom reach into her purse and pull out an envelope. Even from several feet away, I could see the insurance company logo in the corner, the official weight of the paper that meant business. She handed it to Marcus with the solemnity of a religious ceremony, her voice just loud enough for me to hear. "This is what your father wanted, Mijo. The life insurance policy. He always said you'd know what to do with it." Marcus took the envelope with both hands, his expression appropriately grave, but I caught the flash of satisfaction in his eyes. This wasn't a surprise to him. This had been planned, discussed, decided without my knowledge. The amount on life insurance policies isn't usually discussed at funerals, but I knew this one had to be substantial. Dad had increased his coverage significantly when he'd started the business, wanting to ensure Mom would be taken care of if anything happened to him. We'd talked about it years ago, back when he still included me in family financial discussions. $250,000, he'd said with pride. Enough to pay off the house and keep your mother comfortable for years. $250,000. Handed to Marcus like it was his birthright. I felt something crack inside my chest, a clean break like a bone snapping under pressure. This wasn't about money. I had a good job, savings, a life I'd built without depending on family wealth. This was about what the gesture represented. The final confirmation that in my father's eyes, I had never been the son he'd wanted, never been the child worthy of inheriting his legacy. Standing there beside Dad's grave, watching my mother and brother conduct their private ceremony of inheritance, I realized I had a choice to make. I could walk away quietly, maintaining the family peace that had always been purchased with my silence. I could accept my role as the peripheral daughter, the one who'd chosen career over family and therefore forfeited her place in the inner circle. Or I could stand up and speak the truth that had been building in my throat for years. The cemetery was mostly empty now, just a few stragglers making their way back to the parking area. Mom and Marcus stood together near the grave, their heads bent over the insurance envelope like they were planning their next move. The image was perfect in its symbolism, the widow and the inheriting son, united in their grief and their shared future. I took a deep breath, tasting rain and earth and the metallic tang of my own anger. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my fingertips, but my voice, when it came, was steady. Mom. They both looked up, surprised. I'd been so quiet during the service, so compliant during the graveside prayers, that my voice seemed to startle them. There's something I need to say. Marcus frowned, glancing nervously at the few remaining mourners within earshot. Elena, maybe this isn't the time. No, I interrupted, surprised by the strength in my own voice. This is exactly the time. Before that envelope gets opened, before any decisions get made about Dad's legacy, there are some things that need to be said. Mom clutched the tissue in her hand, her expression shifting from confusion to alarm. Mija, we're all grieving. Whatever you're thinking, I'm thinking that Dad would want the truth to be told, I said, stepping closer to them. And the truth is that Marcus isn't the only child who deserves to inherit from Roberto Mendez. The words hung in the air between us like a challenge, and I could see Marcus's jaw tighten as he realized this wasn't going to be the quiet, compliant farewell he'd expected. This was going to be a reckoning. Marcus's face flushed red, his grip tightening on the insurance envelope. Elena, you're making a scene. People are watching. Let them watch, I said, my voice carrying across the cemetery with surprising clarity. Maybe it's time everyone knew the truth about our perfect family. Mom stepped between us, her voice a harsh whisper. Elena Mercedes Mendez, you stop this right now. This is your father's funeral, not some telenovela. You're right, Mom. This is Dad's funeral. And Dad would have wanted honesty, not this charade where Marcus gets rewarded for doing nothing while I get erased from the family story. The few remaining mourners had stopped their exodus, sensing drama. Aunt Rosa stood frozen halfway to her car, probably torn between fleeing and staying to witness whatever explosion was about to happen. Marcus found his voice, attempting his usual charm. Elena, I know you're upset, but Dad made his wishes clear. He wanted me to handle the family business, to take care of Mom. Handle what business? I laughed, the sound sharp enough to cut glass. You mean the business you've shown up to maybe twice a month for the past 5 years? The one where Dad had to hire Miguel as foreman because you couldn't be trusted to show up consistently? That's not. Or maybe you mean the business Dad was planning to sell because he knew you'd run it into the ground within a year. The silence that followed was deafening. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Mom's face went white. What are you talking about? I reached into my purse and pulled out a folded document I'd been carrying since Dad's diagnosis. I'm talking about this. The business evaluation Dad commissioned 6 months ago. The one he asked me to review because, surprise, your organizational skills daughter actually understands financial statements. Marcus lunged for the paper, but I held it away from him. Dad was planning to sell Mendez Construction to Rodriguez Brothers. The offer was for $400,000. He was going to use half to pay off the house and invest the rest for Mom's retirement. That's impossible, Marcus stammered. Dad would never sell. He built that company from nothing. He built it for his family, I said, unfolding the document so everyone could see the official letterhead. But he realized his family didn't include a son capable of running it. The only thing that stopped the sale was the cancer diagnosis. Dad got sick before he could sign the papers. Mom sank onto a nearby bench, the reality crashing over her. Roberto never said anything, because he was protecting Marcus's feelings. Just like he always did. I turned to face my brother directly. Did you know Dad had been covering your debts for 3 years? The credit cards, the failed restaurant investment, that ridiculous crypto scheme? $28,000. Marcus. That's what your business ventures cost our family. The color drained from Marcus's face. How do you? Because Dad asked me to co-sign his loan to cover your mess. The bank wouldn't extend his credit any further. I pulled out another document. This is the loan agreement. $28,000 at 8% interest, with Elena Mendez as co-signer. Dad was paying $300 a month for your mistakes. Aunt Rosa had given up all pretense of leaving and was now openly staring. Other family members were creeping closer, drawn by the spectacle. Elena, Mom whispered, why didn't you tell me? Because Dad made me promise not to. He said it would embarrass Marcus unnecessarily, and that family problems should stay in the family. I felt tears threatening but pushed them back. Even when it was destroying him financially, even when the stress was making him sick, Dad protected Marcus's reputation. Marcus was breathing hard now, his perfect composure cracking. You don't understand. Dad and I had an understanding. He knew I was working on something big, you were working on nothing. The words exploded out of me with years of pent-up frustration. While you were finding yourself and exploring opportunities, I was working 60-hour weeks to put myself through nursing school. While you were living in the basement playing video games, I was building a career. While you were asking Dad for money every month, I was the one he called when he needed help with the business books. I reached into my purse one more time and pulled out a key. A simple brass key on a ring with a small tag reading Office EM. Dad gave me this 3 weeks before he died, I said, holding it up so everyone could see. A key to the business office. He said if anything happened to him, I should make sure the financial records were protected. Not Marcus. Me. Mom stared at the key like it was a snake. That's not possible. Roberto said Marcus would inherit. Marcus would inherit the business if there was still a business to inherit, I corrected. But Dad knew there wouldn't be. The Rodriguez brothers' offer expired last month. Now the company is worth maybe $50,000 in equipment and outstanding contracts. The rest is debt. I walked over to the bench where Mom sat and knelt beside her, my voice gentling. Mom, the insurance money isn't a gift for Marcus to play with. It's meant to pay off Dad's debts and secure your future. $28,000 to the bank for Marcus's loan. $15,000 in remaining medical bills. $12,000 in business debts. That leaves about $200,000 for you to live on. Marcus was staring at the insurance envelope in his hands like it had turned into a ticking bomb. But Dad said I was supposed to handle everything. He said the family legacy, I interrupted, standing to face him, is making sure Mom is taken care of. It's honoring Dad's actual wishes, not the fantasy he let you believe in because he loved you too much to tell you the truth. I took a deep breath, feeling lighter than I had in years. Dad's real legacy is the work ethic he taught us, the values he lived by, and the love he showed his family even when that love wasn't always wise. The cemetery had grown quiet except for the distant sound of traffic and the rustling of leaves. The confrontation that had been building for years was finally over, and in the aftermath, we all looked smaller somehow, more human. Mom reached for the insurance envelope, and after a moment's hesitation, Marcus handed it to her. Her fingers trembled as she opened it and saw the check inside. What do we do now? She asked quietly. I sat down beside her on the bench, my anger finally spent. Now we take care of you. We pay off Dad's debts. We sell the business equipment to someone who can use it. And we move forward as a family, a honest family this time. Marcus slumped against Dad's headstone, looking lost. I thought I was doing what he wanted. You were doing what he told you he wanted, I said, my voice softer now. But what Dad actually wanted was for all of us to be okay. That's what family legacy really means. As the sun broke through the clouds for the first time that day, I felt something shift in the space between us. Not forgiveness exactly, and certainly not a magical healing of years of hurt. But maybe the beginning of something real. Dad was gone, but the truth was finally free. And sometimes, that's the most valuable inheritance of all. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to like, subscribe and turn on the notification bell, so you don't miss any upload. From us,